Hey folks, this is Mary. Welcome back to my channel. Today, as promised, I am swatching the inks from my last Cult Pens order. And if you'll remember, I got the 4 inks in the Iridescinks line, and I got some inks in the Deep Dark line. I don't think I got all of them, but I got most of them. And then I got 3 KWZ inks, my first ever bottles of KWZ ink. So, I've probably mentioned in September, I'm going to be doing 30 inks, 30 days, and I'm going to try to do a purple ink every day. So, I'm saving Gummy Berry and Deep Dark Purple for that purpose. So, I'm just going to set those aside. I'm not going to swatch those today, because I might be swatching them in September. Very exciting. So I'm going to push these back out of the way, and I'm going to start with these 2 KWZ inks. This is Azure number 5 and Walk Over Vistula. 2 blue inks. As you know, I'm crazy about blue ink. I cannot get enough of it. And I've actually sampled both of these. I think I used both of these back in June when I was doing all of my blue inks. But these are both beautiful. And I just wanted to point out that this bottle, in fact all 3 of the KWZ bottles, came wrapped in saran wrap. And I don't know why I found it so fascinating, but this came from England. This is British saran wrap, and I live in America, so I just thought it was fascinating, this saran wrap. So is this regular saran wrap that I might find at my store, or do they have a special British brand, or I don't know. These are the things I wonder about. I can't help myself. But I'm always fascinated to learn about new things and try new things. So I just found that saran wrap very interesting. Okay, so we're going to start with this one. This is KWZ Azure number 5. Ooh, uh-oh. He sprinkled on me a little bit. Yeah, the Noodlers bottles are always so full, but this one wasn't full. He just had a lot of, he had ring around the collar. My ink bottle had ring around the collar. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that my glass nib is clean. Give him a little wipe off. Alrighty, so this is, uh-oh. Well, I'm just making a huge mess. I got water on my swatch card. So this is KWZ ink, and this is Azure number 5. And they have several colors, Azure being one of them, that they have several different numbers of, and I'm not sure if the numbers mean the same thing for each color. Like, is it, as the number goes higher, does it get darker? Does it get lighter? Is it more sheeny? Is it more shady? I'm not sure. Something to explore. Oh, well, I just put the lid back on this thing and I didn't do a swatch, which is the whole point of this, right? Make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. Wow, that is, whoops, it's trying to get away from me. It is such a dark, beautiful blue. Blue is definitely my favorite, and there are just 1,000 different colors of blue. So pretty. So I'm going to set him aside to dry. And put his cap back on. And next we have Walk Over Vistula. I know that KWZ ink is made in Poland, but I don't know a whole lot about the company. They do make a wide range of inks, and they make a lot of iron gall inks. Oh, here's rings from the 2 bottles. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can see that very well. I've got some nice afternoon light, but it's been raining quite a bit here in Virginia, so it's pretty cloudy outside. So this is, I think this is Walkover Vistula, and this is Azure number 5, and this is more teal, and this is more blue, but it's probably not going to show up very well on the camera. But still interesting. So, KWZ makes a lot of iron gall inks, and I've never tried an iron gall ink before. They make me a little nervous. I think when iron gall inks were first manufactured, however long ago that was, probably 100 years ago, they were more corrosive, I guess, more hard on a pen. So I'm just nervous about putting them in one of my pens. Again, I don't have wildly expensive pens, but I do love all of my pens, and I do want to take care of all of them, even if they only cost me a few dollars. But I've also heard that modern iron gall formulations are much more gentle on pens, and with any pen ink, we should be practicing proper pen hygiene, whether it's an iron gall ink or not, and we should be cleaning out our pens on a regular basis. I don't know if I fall into that category or not. Although I'm very proud of myself. I've been cleaning out some pens lately. I was counting up my recently cleaned pen pile, and I have 9. So I thought that was really good. I'm making progress. Ooh, now I was forcing a drip on this one, and he dripped quite a bit. So that should be interesting when he dries. Alrighty, so I think next I'm going to go for the deep dark line, and that's these guys right here. Let's see. So this is deep dark red, and I'm not a huge fan of red, but if I do choose a red, it's going to be a darker red. I like maroons and colors along those lines. One of the colors I'm using this month in my pen, one of my pens, is oxblood. And it's the first time I've had oxblood inked up in a pen, and I'm really enjoying the color. I've got it in a pen with a stub nib, and I don't know how I feel about the stub nib, but I do enjoy the ink. So let me see, how do I want to describe this? This is Diamine, deep, dark, red. And that is very dark. It looks almost brown. It's kind of that dried blood color. I'd say it's much darker than oxblood, but of course without without comparing them side by side, it's hard to say that. But it does look very dark. And I wonder how they made these inks so dark. I was watching a video from Brian Goulet about mixing colors, and he said you can't just make an ink more saturated, more intense by adding black to it. That just makes it darker. You have to reduce the water in it. He suggested putting some in a vial and leaving the lid off of the vial to let the dye concentrate a bit by letting the water evaporate. But just by adding black, you're not going to get that same color intensity. So I wonder how they formulated these colors. I'm really fascinated by ink. You know, ink mixing and ink formulas and all those fun things. And I do have some more ink mixing videos planned. Those are lots of fun. It's just fun to play around with inks. And I was never terribly interested in painting or mixing paints and things like that. But now that I've gotten into fountain pens, I just love playing around with the ink. It's so much fun. Oh, I forgot to read the name on this one. This is Deep Dark Blue. Ooh, blue's my favorite. Ooh, way too much ink on there. Okay. So we have Diamine. Goodness gracious, yes, that is way too much ink on the glass nib. Let's see. Deep, dark, blue. Wow, way too much ink on the glass nib. I haven't played around with my dip pen yet. I got a nib holder from Pure Pens, and I purchased some zebra G-nibs from somewhere, Amazon I think. I just haven't gotten the two things together yet. But I do want to play around with those and see what a dip pen is like, a metal dip pen as compared to a glass dip pen. Whew, very, very dark. Wow. That kind of reminds me of Regency Blue, another diamine ink. Regency Blue or Oxford Blue. It is super, super dark. But again, I don't know if I would call that a blue-black, because to me, blue-blacks have a real undertone of gray to them. And this one just looks like a really dark blue. But we'll have to see what it looks like when it dries. Alrighty. And next up we have Deep Dark Green. I do like green ink, I just don't have that many of them. And I was thinking about these 30 inks 30 days challenges. And again, if you've seen my previous videos, I did 91 days in a row of different blue inks because that's how many blue inks I have. And some of them I still haven't gotten around to sampling, or, you know, to trying out. So let me just refresh my memory. This is Deep Dark Green. And in September, I'm planning to do a month of purple for 30 inks, 30 days. But after that, I don't think I have enough of any one color to do a whole month. I had lots of blue. I have quite a bit of purple. I have some green, but I don't think I have enough green inks in bottles or samples combined to do 30 different samples. And then, you know, I have a few red and a few orange and a few brown and a few pink. I think I'm up to 3 black at this point, which is more black than I ever thought I would have. Ooh, this is kind of an olive green. That's very nice. And again, one of my top inks is California Teal, which I have always thought was really green, really vibrantly green when I use it. But I was watching somebody else's video. I want to say it was a swatching video that Gadget Stop 321 did recently. She had some samples that she had just purchased. And the California Teal that she sampled looked really teal. And I have never seen it look that color when I've used it. And of course, we know with cameras and monitors and everything and lighting, it always makes a difference. So this one is Deep Dark Brown. Can you see that? Deep Dark Brown. So whenever anybody asks me what my favorite green is, I always say California Teal. And they look at me like I'm crazy because it's not green, it's teal, but to me it looks very green. So it's just always interesting to see how different inks can be and how differently they can look. And I think I got way too much ink on this again, so I'm just scraping it off a little bit. Alright, so this is Diamine. Deep Dark Brown. Oh, I think I scraped it off too good. And brown is one of those colors, kind of like black. I feel like I need to have one in my collection, but I'm not exactly thrilled with it. But I do have several different ones. And Ancient Copper has just been calling my name lately. I don't know if you would consider that a brown or an orange or some combination thereof, but I kind of think of that as a brown. And fall is coming. The days are finally getting cooler. It's no longer over 90 degrees every day. Hallelujah. Oh, forgot to do my swatch again. So I feel like it's time to start thinking about some fall colors. Some oranges are going to creep into things for me. So I just feel like Ancient Copper is one of those beautiful fall colors. Now this one looks really, really brown, not with a reddish tinge to it. just kind of a straight brown. But again, we have to let it dry and see how it looks after it dries. But that's a very nice brown. So I will probably be inking up a pen with Ancient Copper very soon. And I'm trying to decide how I'm going to do this. I want to do 30 inks, 30 days with the purple inks and use a different purple ink every day. But then I need to ink up some pens for journaling. And I was thinking I would ink them all up with purple inks to, you know, keep in line with my goal for the month. But then I want to use Ancient Copper, so I might just have to make some exceptions. Okay, this one is Deep Dark Orange. Speaking of fall colors, this one will probably be very appropriate. And of course, I can't have a month without a blue ink in it, so I'll have to ink up some purples, and maybe one blue, and then maybe Ancient Copper. We'll see. September is still a ways off, but not that far off. It is galloping toward us. And it's always fun to think ahead about what your next project is going to be. So let's see. And I think I've mentioned before, I do have quite a few orange samples, and I had planned to swatch all of them at some point, and I never got around to it. So I need to do that this year in preparation for fall. Wow. That kind of reminds me of Ancient Copper. Oh, I do love comparing the different swatch cards. It's so much fun. Oh, need to get a little drip out of him here. Come on. Drippy, drippy. Little bit of a drip. That's really pretty. Okay, so we're going to put him aside to dry. And those are all of our deep dark inks. So now we're going to move on to the iridescent inks. Ooh, and I'm just getting a little bit of ink everywhere, but that's okay. That's what paper towels are for. Okay, so here are the Iridescinks. And they have such cute names. So, okay, I looked these up online. This is Little Chris, which is Christine. And this is Little Pip, which is Philip. And this is Little Mo, or Maureen. And this is Little Bob, or Robert. And I've seen a couple of these in swatching videos online. But, gosh, I think Christine and Robert I've seen, but the other two I'm really not familiar with. So this is going to be interesting to see what they look like. Alrighty, so here we have Christine. So it is Diamine. And I just have to say kudos to Diamine because they are just cranking out the fascinating inks. They had the ink vent calendar last year, and they've got all these lines for cult pens, and they make a lot of special lines for different companies, so they are just really on the ball. Let me see if I can spell this right. Iridescink. We're going to say that's right. And this is Christine. Ooh, Christine always makes me think of that Stephen King book, which I have never read, but I hear it's very scary. I was really into Stephen King for a while, and I read a bunch of his old stuff. And then I tried reading Needful Things, and that just didn't do anything for me, and I kind of fell out of love with Stephen King for a long time. And then my book club read, I always get the name wrong. I'm going to embarrass myself. It's the date that the date that JFK was shot, 11/22/63, I think. So that's kind of his alternate history about the day JFK was shot. Very interesting book. He is a really great writer. I feel like I didn't get much of a swatch on this one. Goodness, we need some more ink on the page. And it seems kind of dry, too. We got a little bit of a blob. Maybe we can get a little bit bigger blob. That's better. Oh, okay, so Christine is kind of a teal, but I see some other colors in there. I think that might be some sheen coming out. So we'll see how that looks when it dries. And while we're talking about Stephen King and scary books, his son also writes. His name is Joe Hill. And if you have never read any Joe Hill, I highly recommend them. Of course, they are horror books, they are scary books, but he just writes a different sort of flavor from his father. And his middle name is Hill, so he's Joe Hill King, and he didn't want to be attached to his father. He wanted to start his career on his own, so he just went by Joe Hill, which I thought was really cool. But I've read several of his books, and they're very good. I really recommend The Fireman, which is about a plague that makes people spontaneously combust. Very interesting. Okay, I digress. This is, oh shoot, I forgot the iridescink. See, this is what happens when I'm talking. Iridescink. Iridescink. But what's better than talking about fountain pens? Talking about books. Books and fountain pens. That's where it's at. All right. Well, Mr. Phillips seems to be purple. And he is purple. Ooh. And it seems much wetter, a much wetter ink than Christine was. So we'll get him to slide around a little bit. Very fun. All right, thank you, Mr. Phillip. And next up is Little Mo, or Maureen. I just think that's funny. It seems like a lot of British names have nicknames. Like all the royal family, they all give them crazy nicknames. I guess we all give each other nicknames. It's just human nature. Okay, so this is Diamine. And I'm not going to forget the iridescink. 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 And this is Maureen. Alrighty, Miss Maureen. Let's get a look at you. Ooh, very nice. Lovely blue. Very nice. Not much of a drip, though. So I will encourage her to drip a bit more. Oop, now she's running all over the place, which is okay by me. Alright, so set her aside for a moment. And our last one is Little Bob. Or Robert. I haven't looked into these inks very much. I don't know who they're named after, if they're named after anyone. Ooh, this looks like a bright red. Okay. So this is Diamine, Iridescink. I keep wanting to put an R in there. Robert. I saved the iridescinks for last because I didn't know what they would do to my rinse water. But it's a very interesting shade over there. But thankfully these glass nib pens are really easy to clean. Just a little dip and a swipe and they're good. Alright, Mr. Robert, let's see what you got. Gosh, it started off such a bright red and now it's looking really brown. Goodness, okay. Okay, looking kind of a pinkish red. I'm getting some grenade feelings, some Sailor Grenade. So we'll make sure he gets a nice drip. And then we'll see. I'm going to let these dry a little bit, and then we will come back and see what we've got. Alright, so the inks are drying and my daylight is fading, so I wanted to go ahead and show you these before it gets a little bit too dark. So here is KWZ Azure number 5, and that does have some nice red sheen. Let's see if we can see that. Hopefully you can see that. It's hard to see the sheen in the camera sometimes. Alright, and then there is Walk Over Vistula, and I think this has even more red sheen than the Azure had. So one is a bit more blue and one is a bit more teal, but they both have some lovely red sheen. Alright, and next up are the deep dark inks. So we have deep dark red. And as it was drying, it looked like it was turning brown, but I think it's that kind of bronze sheen over the ink, which is really interesting. Let's see, can you see that? A little bit. So it's a dark red with kind of a bronze sheen to it. Very nice. And we have deep dark green. And this one doesn't look, well, I guess they're about equally saturated. And this one does have a little sheen to it, maybe some silvery sheen. It's hard to tell, but there's definitely something going on there. And that's very pretty. And then we have deep dark blue. And this one's right at my alley. Beautiful blue color with some red sheen. And Gus is trying to tell me something. I don't know what he's trying to tell me. Gus doesn't want to go outside because he's afraid of the Japanese beetles. I don't know if you have Japanese beetles in your area, but we have quite a swarm of them here in my yard, and he's terrified of them. Okay, we have deep dark brown. And that does have a little bit of sheen. Again, it's that kind of silvery looking sheen that I saw on the deep dark green. And hopefully I've got enough room for all these guys in here. Put my pen away. Love these glass nib pens with the cap. I broke 2 glass pens that did not have caps on them, so I love these pens with the cap. Alright, then we have deep dark. Oh no! I was talking about purple inks and I wrote deep dark purple. Obviously this is not purple, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is deep dark orange. So I'm going to have to redo this one. And he's got a little bit of sheen on him too. It's hard to tell what that is. Kind of a grayish brown sheen maybe? Let's compare him with the deep dark red. Very interesting. Now this one in the camera is looking more maroon, but in person it's looking more like a, kind of like a brick red, just a dark true red. And this is more like a, this is like a burnt orange. Very nice. All right, who do we have left? Ooh, we have our Iridescinks inks left. So here is Christine, and she is still very wet. But she is a lovely dark teal with some bright pink sheen. And I have a feeling when this wet area finally dries, that's just going to be solid pink sheen. It is very shiny, very wet, but I think it's going to be very sheeny. But you can see the pink sheen around the edge. Very interesting. Sheening inks are a lot of fun, but I don't like them to sheen to the point where they take over the ink. I do enjoy seeing my ink color. Alright, here is Maureen. And this is that lovely blue. And ooh, the ink is still a bit runny. So that lovely dark blue color, and then lots of dark pink sheen. And again, I suspect that this wet area is just going to be solid sheen when it dries. But very pretty. And who else do we have here? We've got Philip. I feel like this is named after a king, like it's a royal purple named after a king. I'll have to look into these inks and see if they have a story behind them. So it's a purple with kind of a, I would say a greenish, a yellowish green sheen. That's really fun. Lovely color. And finally we have Mr. Robert. And this does remind me strongly of Grenade. I would need to compare the cards with each other. But that red with the green sheen to it. And this is a neon green. Oh my goodness. The way it looks on the camera is pretty much the way I'm seeing it in person. That is some neon green. And again, it's still drying right here. But that's going to be a whole lot of sheen when it dries. So really fun. So kind of a dark magenta red maybe, with that green sheen on top. All right, well this was really fun. This was my last Cult Pens order of the year. So I'm trying to limit my spending a little bit, but I have an abundance of beautiful new inks to enjoy in the meantime, so I am certainly not complaining. So I hope you enjoyed this swatching video. I certainly enjoyed it too. It's always fun to explore new inks. And if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.